Discover your inner goddess and live up to your highest value and most abundant potential. Welcome to Grateful Goddesses, a podcast that empowers you to unleash your inner goddess and take the leap of faith to live your best life. Your guide, Karen Pulver, joins her fellow goddesses in soulful conversations about gratitude, personal growth, authentic living, and a bevy of topics affecting women today. Let's start the show with your host, Karen Pulver.
Welcome everyone to Grateful Goddesses. I see some lovely ladies in front of me, and we're here today to talk with Lori Ross. Lori Barbieri Ross combines her extensive program development and organizational experience with her passion for bringing people together. She has grown an inspired, successful global business. Through the branches of Seven Stones, LLC, she brings people together for their personal and professional growth, which then extends to the betterment of the planet as a whole. She is a Reiki master and a gifted intuitive healer that enhances the personal services that she offers to clients who are seeking visionary, heart-centered empowerment, support, and guidance. Welcome, Lori Ross, to Grateful Goddesses. And I'm so excited, actually, Lori, because I have something hidden in my bra. Can you guess what that is?
Is it a crystal?
I'm going to dig down deep. I have two. These are two stones that you sent me.
Oh, beautiful.
Tiger's Eye and Rose Quartz. And you were so lovely in sending these to me. You sent me some others as well. And I'm just going to read a little bit about what they mean. Rose quartz, it's so interesting because you talk about the stone like as if it's an actual person. You say she wanted to come along to let you know that loving yourself unconditionally through your transformation process with loads of self-care will help the transition from where you are now to where you will be easier and more joyful. And then Tiger's Eye, this little guy packs a courageous punch for you into your next chapter of spotlight exposure, encourages fearless living. So I'm going to put them back in my bra. Tell me, first of all, when did you realize about stones and their energy?
Well, you'd have to ask my mother, but I definitely was the kid that would go out into the woods because I'm from Washington State originally, and so we had a plethora of woods to play in. And I would find the weirdest stones, like not just the common ones on the ground. I would find huge chunks of obsidian or pumice stone, and I would just collect them all. And I didn't know then what they were doing. I just knew I was drawn to them, and I couldn't really explain it. So going to the beach even, like I would just come home with these piles of rocks. I mean, honestly, I had no idea until I was probably in my late 20s what they were actually trying to communicate to me and actually trying to be a part of my life, because they are alive. And I call them my team. I don't call them tools. I had a mentor that said, these are not tools, they're alive. But yeah, it was early on. I was always that kid collecting stones everywhere, everywhere I went.
Rachel, you have some questions to Lori about energy work.
I mean, you have such a varied background. I mean, you've done so much more even than studying the stones, but you talk about just kind of, I'm curious about all your different practices and being intuitive and reading people and reading energy and kind of how that practice works for you and how you work with people and how you bring all those different practices into reading others and your empathy. And I don't know, your background is really amazing. You sound so powerful, I have to say. So I'm just curious, kind of the method to your madness.
Well, that's a great question. It took me a really long time to because I think a lot of people in the metaphysical world, they'll throw all of their gifts out on their business card and it can be a little overwhelming. But really, when it boils down to it, what I do is I translate energy. And the rocks, the stones, they really helped me find what that meant, because they vibrate so fast and their frequency is so high that I was able to kind of realize that my natural state was bliss. And I believe everybody's natural state is bliss, by the way. And so what these stones do is they were communicating to me that, because it's science to me, I don't call it magic, but it's fun to call it magic, but To me, it's very scientific. What these stones are doing is they're coming into our electromagnetic field and they're influencing it. It's no different than going to a personal trainer. You know, when you're around that happy person and like everybody feels happy around them because their energy is emitting as opposed to absorbing. And you asked me, like, my whole life I was a very sickly child because I was absorbing everybody's energy all the time. And I didn't understand why. And I would feel people's thoughts and I would feel people's emotions so strongly. And I thought they were mine. Until I got older, I was able to kind of delineate, well, that's yours, that's yours. And I was able to then kind of separate it. So now I can kind of turn it up and down, which most people are still kind of a victim to it. And they're absorbing and they'll even take on things like that are suicidal thoughts that aren't even theirs. I mean, it's just really, and so then they end up becoming kind of a victim to it. And so I don't even remember what your question was, but I learned early on how to, not that I was absorbing energy, and how to change that so I could actually become an emitter, a transmitter. And now I've gotten so good that I can actually go into the quantum level and actually hear below the physical level of what your body's trying to communicate. So the crystals are kind of that kinesthetic piece that gets you to really understand or listen to all energy, because everything is talking. Oh, don't knock my lamp over. Everything. I'm Italian, sorry. I talk with my hands.
That's okay.
But everything is talking, and it can be very overwhelming. So you have to kind of learn how to like block it, how to push it, how to move it, how to shrink it, how to expand it. And it's so vast, and it takes a lot of practice. It's no different than going to the gym and doing this. Every day I have to do self-care every single day, because I'm working in a shop where people are coming in and they will suck the life out of you if you don't know how to protect yourself or how to emit a really strong energy. But I put it in my practice because I'm able to, just by running my hands over people, and actually all you need to do is just speak someone's name, and you can pull their energy in from anywhere on the planet or even outside the planet if you want to go there. And we can kind of get a map of their energy centers and really kind of where the energy might be stuck, or it might be too much energy, or it's inflamed, or, you know, or whatever, or the childhood trauma that gets stuck, and then causes us to not evolve because we're constantly triggered by it. That was a really long answer to your question. I kind of went into a zone for a second there.
No, but that's exactly, I think, what my question was, is just you channel all these different modalities and kind of how you do it to read people and their energy and to, you know.
Yeah, and everybody's open. And I think people need to be aware that they can control their own. I really teach people to take back their sovereignty of their own energetic field, because it's none of my business what people are thinking, but I can teach you how to like create an energy field or emit such a high energy that you really will either repel or attract, you know, things that you want and repel things that you don't. Because I think, anyway, I was just going to go, there's kind of an evolution of what I see when people kind of come to crystals. There's an evolution of the stones they start with to kind of where they graduate into, which tells me where their frequency's at.
It's amazing. My mind is like going crazy now with questions, because I'm thinking about my son who lives in Toronto, but when he was a little boy, I didn't even think of that till you said he would, everywhere we would go, his room is filled with stones and gems. He had a whole we have a storage closet has buckets of these stones he would not let us throw away. And when he came to visit us, he grabbed a bunch and took them home with him. And he has them in his apartment all over. And he's given some to me. It's just, I didn't even realize that. I just thought he liked them, but he must have that too.
At some subconscious level, he might not realize what they're doing, but they can actually repel energy or protect spaces and or really ground the energy. I tend to need more grounding stones.
It's funny because when I was cleaning up not too long ago, I found some stones in a corner and some over here. And I called him and I said, you left stones here? He said, no, Mom, I actually purposely put them in that corner because I felt that you needed them there. You guys should talk. But I do have to tell my featured goddesses, my ladies here, that Lori was so kind. When I reached out to her, you sent me a box of stones, the 2 that I have in my bra, and then 2 more. You sent me emerald, and I think this one is azurine, which I love this. Small and mighty, this stone will help you with that pesky anxiety that likes to hang out in your stomach, which I need. But what I found was amazing, Lori, was you really tapped into something in me. You said you're struggling with grief. And it doesn't necessarily mean a person, although I did have a good friend pass away that I mentioned to you, but it was deeper than that, wasn't it? You were saying to me, I have to let things go, I believe. You were saying, take 5 minutes to meditate, perhaps with the stones in your hand or your bra, trying to let go and release through anger or tears, whatever your body needs to let go. And I really resonated with that. And thank you so much.
Yeah. And actually out here in Arizona, I have the honor of being near a Apache Tears mine. And I actually carry, they're ethically sourced here. I always try to buy stones that are ethically sourced. But there's a stone, I think I might have given you one of those too, an Apache tear. It's a form of obsidian.
You know what? I didn't get that.
Oh, you didn't?
And I was reading you gave me, I was looking for it and it's not here. And sometimes I wonder if it maybe wasn't meant to come to me. Is that silly?
No, not at all. Not at all.
You said it's a large black stone. And I'm like, there's no large black stone in here.
It was packed differently in the box, like separately, because it wasn't. In the bigger box, it wasn't?
Never got it.
That's interesting. Okay. We'll have to send that one to you.
Or maybe it just decided that I didn't need it. Who knows?
That's very true.
But I would like it. I like what it says, that it's master releaser of grief, right?
Yeah, I mean, the story goes here. So in Arizona, there's a really sad history out in these mountains. And the Apaches warriors were murdered by our own government out here. There was many massacres of the Apaches. And there was one in particular that's about 30 miles from here in Superior, where the U.S. government, the cavalry was chasing the Apache warriors and they were shooting at them. And the Apache warriors decided to just dive off the cliff with their horses and die than be killed by the government out here. And the U.S. cavalry. And so the story goes that the tears that were shed by the women and children then became these beautiful stones, and they became long associated with the energy of releasing sorrow and grief. But really, if you feel the energy of these mountains, you feel her grief. You feel all the stuff that she's witnessed. And on a side note, I don't work with small stones. I work mountains too. So we do a Heal the Mountain hike once a month. And one of the very first session we did was rebury the gold and from the mountain, some of these flakes to let her know that we're here to give back more than we're going to take. And I had a friend that said, you can't empower a mountain. And I said, watch me. I said, watch me. So we're shifting the energy out here in Gold Canyon because it has the potential to be a healing destination, just like Sedona. So we work with all sizes out here of stones.
Well, Camille is out in North Carolina. Are there mountains there that you?
Well, it's interesting because I actually am of Lumbee descent, which is Native Americans that are here in North Carolina. And so stones is a big thing, and feeling the land and honoring it as well. So that's interesting just to hear the Apache side of things, how connected it is on that side too.
Do you have a question, Camille, for Lori?
We have a lot of mountains. I don't know a lot of stories behind them, though, unfortunately. So I used to work in Spa World, and we would do stone massages, hot stone massages. And a lot of times the massage therapist would say that they didn't cleanse their stones with the moon, or there was something going on with the moon and they couldn't work, or they couldn't use these stones or the cleansing. And I mean, it was also like Mercury in retrograde. There was a lot of different things. And at the time, I felt like it was a lot of hoopla to get out of work. And then after a while, I discovered how true some of that was, or not some of it, but a lot of it became true in my own life with the idea that, oh, this is all fake, but it was true. It was happening. It was constant. So I'm curious, how do you cleanse your stones, or how do you even go about choosing, I guess? You say they speak to you. And so I'm curious about, how do you cleanse them when you get them, or what's the ritual once you receive them, I guess?
Well, it depends on the stone too. I mean, some are very brittle, so you don't want to put them in water. But you hear that a lot. Put them in salt water, put them in salt. Now, there's two different things that you're talking about. So putting them out in the moon and the sun is more of an infusion of energy. So when you think about moon energy, it's going to be more feminine. We're going to talk about the divine goddess. We're going to talk about nurturing energy. So, and the full moon is very powerful because it also is an alignment. Like full moon in Scorpio is going to be a great example. Scorpio is kind of scary for a lot of people, but really it's about transformation, death, sex, and transformation. That's kind of the characteristics of Scorpio. So depending on the moon and what kind of astrological sign it's in, and that's going to be an infusion of energy. That's why it's like people get really like stoked when there's like an eclipse. So like, we got to put it out, because then you got the different energies working together. Whereas the sun, you have more of that action energy, that divine masculine energy, that's more vitality, right? So that more movement. So those are more of infusion. I mean, people say they're cleansing them, but I energetically feel them more as an infusion of energy. When you're talking about, so all these stones, they also have their energy fields or electromagnetic fields. And so things to cleanse them would be, putting them in salt, putting them near water. So you can actually use, because water is a liquid crystal at room temperature. Frozen 2 is so fascinating when they're like, water has memory. And I'm like, yes, thank you for telling the world. It definitely does. You can infuse water as well. Putting water out in the moon is really good too. If you want to drink that energy as well. But salt, sage is a popular one. Putting it in the earth, because these stones, they really do get exhausted, guys. I am not kidding. They can work so hard where they're like, I'm done with her. Like, she's not shifting the way that we need her to shift. Put me back. So salt, what I say, sage, we got water, we got earth, we got candles. You can take it, not putting it directly in the flame, but you can put it in the light of the candle. Basically using the elements, right? Using the elements to cleanse anything, like what we would do if we want to take a salt bath. The first thing that does is it cleanses our auric field. So salt is also a crystal, right, in its form. So they're kind of everywhere. We're using crystals whether we know it or not, right? But yeah, I just wanted to distinguish between the two, as like moon and sun is more of an infusion of energy, whereas there's other elements that you can use to cleanse. And it does make a big difference. And sometimes they need to take a break for a long time because working with different energy fields, it's exhausting. It's like a nurse going to the ER every day, right? It's like you have to kind of give them a break sometimes and let them breathe to be able to do their thing.
That brings up something I want to ask you about. One of my daughters, I went to a store here that sells stones called the Ruby Room. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them here in Chicago. She was just with me. I was just buying a gift for someone, and we went upstairs to the stone, the gems, and she just picked a bunch of pretty ones that she wanted. So we brought them home, and the woman there said, actually, she I guess she was an intuitive, and she said, your daughter picked those for a reason, put them beside her bed. They'll protect her. I'm like, okay. So I put them in a bowl, and a couple weeks later, a bunch of them were gone. And I thought, did you knock them over? Where are they? We searched everywhere, didn't know where they were. So we went back to replace them. And I was just asking this woman about it. I was like, oh, we want to replace the blue one and the pink one and the black one, whatever. And she said, well, they're gone because they didn't serve her anymore. You need to pick something different. And I didn't quite understand that. Do you understand that? And
well,
how they actually disappear?
Well, I think didn't serve her anymore might be a harsh way to state that. Can you give me your daughter's name? I'd actually like to tune in if you don't mind. So if you don't mind, and you can edit this out.
No, I would love this actually, because I have to say I've also gotten her bracelets and necklaces with stones that people have said to protect her, this and that, and they've broken, fallen off. They always go missing.
So it's interesting with her energy is immediately I'm going to go to the right side of that heart. And so working with the energy of green. So I don't know if she picked up any green stones, but the heart energy is kind of our love center. It's our how we kind of love the world, right? And how so it's that masculine influence side is what I'm trying to say. So there's a lot of I don't mean to go deep. Like,
no, it's fine. It's fine. No, this is great. Right, guys? It's great. It's great. Go ahead.
So I don't know if the father energy doesn't allow her to kind of express in a certain way, because maybe there's his fear of what love kind of looks like. So there is this kind of stifling on that right side of her heart, where she does have this beautiful voice. She has this beautiful, and I don't even know if she needed those other stones, to be honest, but and this doesn't even answer your question about where the stones went, but what I'm feeling is she also kind of mimics your energy as well in that heart energy. And so she was kind of brought here to be a mirror for you, to show you that you really need to go inward into that heart space with your masculine influence as well. So it's kind of like repeating the cycle, and so you can stop the cycle by now I say go inward with a green stone, but I sent you that emerald and she could work with that as well. Mm-hmm. But it goes even deeper than that. So when you actually place that stone kind of on that heart, two things can happen. You can have that rise to the surface, and a lot of times what ends up happening is we want this transformation, and when things rise to the surface and our frequency is trying to change and get rid of all the old stuff, we tend to suppress it because it's scary, because we think that temporary emotion, which is trying to release from the heart, which is that grief, is going to be forever, and it's really not. We can just acknowledge it in that moment and be like, okay, so this is here, this is only temporary, I'm going to send this energy, compassion, and then it will move through you, just like water, just like feminine, just like the flow, right? That's what emotion is. It's not permanent. But there is a masculine influence, and it's not even consciously what the father influence is doing. It's just part of that programming, where we need to really take a close look at that and make sure that she's really able to have clear boundaries with her heart, but also express her love in a way that she wants to express it. It feels like I'm not allowed to do that fully. So whatever that means. But the stones that she may have gotten from the store, they'll come back when they need to. They will reappear when they need to. So it's almost like seed planting in the house. Because I feel them like, oh, that's when I'll need that one. Because, and some stones don't like to work together either, by the way. They like to work one at a time. They like to work solo. They're just like people. Like you can't put a moldavite near a lot of different stones because it's very high frequency and very fast vibration. So so sometimes they'll just kind of like find their own little hidey place, and but I feel like they will come back when she needs them the most.
Wow, I have goosebumps. I can't wait to share that with her, and I'm going to give this to her to put up by her heart.
Yeah. I didn't want to go too specific on that, but I mean, we could definitely do a private session where we can go very specific.
Yes, yeah. For sure. Dina, I want you to jump in here. I know you have some questions too.
So, hi. I am very unfamiliar with stones and their meaning, and I've been given them, and I like to touch them and feel them. And I years ago had somebody come through my home. I think it's either white or a very light pink, maybe quartz, above my front door, like on the, I don't know what we call this, the hearth, like the little ledge. And every time I come downstairs, I see it, and I always think of it. I'm not even sure what it was supposed to be, but it's there, and it's been there for a very long time. So it's very interesting to hear all of this. And I definitely am a believer in your energy, whether it's, through the stones or not. I've been around people that their energy is pretty icky and it's not good. And I've been around great energy and it lifts me up. And so I feel like I practice this in my day-to-day, just not in the real specific to stone work. My question is that how do you know when that stone needs to be cleansed? Or do you just do it sort of like a spring cleaning where you would put it aside and let it regenerate and re-energize? Or how do you know that?
So that's a really good question. My first instinct would to say use your intuition on that one. Once you become really familiar with the language of the stones, they'll tell you immediately. So for me, like for example, when I have a stone in here, I'll hold it and I start to feel really choked up, and I'll be like, this is like too heavy. Another great example is I had a consignor bring in stones that she wanted to sell, and I have them behind this wall on an altar, and they will not see the light of day in the retail side until because they had a lot of family trauma. Like, you can feel it. It's all in the memory of the stones. It's all in the imprint of the stones. And so I would just say use your intuition on that, because some of them don't need to be cleansed. Quartz is a great example. Quartz is used in a lot of electronics. It's got its own natural property of an electronic field that it just it transmits energy. So, you got to be careful with quartz too, because it is a magnifier. So if you're dealing with bad energy, like it's going to magnify that. It makes some people sick because it's like, well, you need to take care of yourself. But I would just use your intuition on that one and really start to, maybe even hold it and connect with it and ask it and see what you hear. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but they are communicating. I promise you they're communicating, and you can hear it, you can sense it, you can see it. There's many ways that the energy can be translated to you through whatever you feel. I feel like you feel a lot in your stomach, so you would feel it more in your stomach, more of a gut instinct.
That actually goes into my next question for the four of us here. What stone, if there is one for each of us, would you mind telling each one of us which stone you feel would be most helpful for us, or is that too much to ask?
No, that's fine. That's totally fine. Do you want me to start with you?
Sure.
I want to write mine down.
I'm going to buy them for all of you. So whichever one you say, just on a side note, I'll purchase for the girls.
Okay.
So you'll send me a bill.
Oh, mine are diamonds. I can already tell.
So diamond, you got to be careful with diamonds. So diamonds are.
Wait, listen.
Edit that out. I was just making a joke.
But why?
One, how they're harvested, they carry a lot of sadness. And how they are created, we're not talking lab created ones, but a natural diamond has to go an immense amount of pressure. So to become that beautiful thing that we wear. So if you're working with diamond, that means you're going to have a tough time, because it's going to have to put you through your refining period, like the spiritual sandpaper and all that pressure of life. And you'll feel good at the end, but it's a really intense stone to work with. I don't work with diamonds.
No diamonds, no thanks.
I have a question on that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Very naive. So if you're wearing a diamond, is that essentially saying the same thing? Or, traditionally you're given an engagement ring that's a diamond. So what?
Well, I think you just have to be careful how they were harvested, because there's a lot of people that get murdered for the stones. Right. And so I just won't wear them, because I just don't, a great example. I don't know the answer to that question, but I was at the Tucson Gem Show last year. There's a water bottle with crystals, and one of them had diamonds, and she handed it to me, and I immediately started crying because I could feel how sad these stones were. And then she immediately took it back, because she was like, there's people watching you. I gotta sell these diamonds, and I could just feel the energetic imprint of the conditions that, and just how sad it was to get these stones. And so working with diamonds, I think they really represent, I'm not saying don't wear them. I'm just saying it could represent that you have a long way to go spiritually, to kind of ascend to that beautiful carbon pressure diamond. But yeah, I don't even work with diamonds. So, but yeah, for that reason, they're a little sad for me. But they are. It's interesting that that people call them rare, because they're not rare. So I don't know why they're so expensive.
It's called De Beers, and it's a market.
De Beers, yeah. They're not rare. It's just it's almost like it's like smoke and mirrors with that one. It's like, oh, it's so beautiful and shiny, but like, do you understand what's the energy behind that? You know, it's pretty tragic. So
we're not diamonds. So what stone then? Let's get back on the track of, thank you though for sharing.
Yeah, we can edit that out.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to. I think it's great. I think people know that.
So, Karen, as far as you go, so if you don't mind, there was a question you asked in the email about the yellow and pink, and I think it's funny that you pulled out a yellow and pink diamond when you say that, you know. But working
with Reiki.
Yeah. So you see, working with the different colors,
right?
I feel like you're already kind of on track, like from the neck down to the stomach. But we'll be talking about the root and actually feeling safe in your message and what you're trying to put out into the world. Because I see that you're kind of starting in small groups and that you're kind of building that momentum. But that root chakra, which is a simple stone for you, and you might already have it, as a red jasper. And a red jasper really just kind of goes to the root, literally, and that's our primal safety chakra. That's the one that most women have violated in this lifetime. And they don't get to ascend to that point of self-actualization because that foundation has been violated. And so I work with a lot of women, and I'm not saying yours was, but I work with a lot of women where we really need to focus on that primal. It's actually a lower frequency, but it keeps us stable and it keeps us feeling safe. So for you, I would definitely recommend a red jasper.
I don't have a red jasper, but I did also pick up on the Scorpio. I am Scorpio. So when you mentioned the sexual energy, and that is kind of in your, honestly, I mean, that is your root, right?
Yep. That's the root and the sacral kind of all together. So for this, so the solar plexus, the sacral, and those are all of our physical chakras. Yeah. And then once we get to the heart, which is kind of that mid-balancing point, then we start to go into the spiritual chakras. And some are bigger than others, and that's a whole nother conversation about chakras. But
yeah, I always think like if I liven up my sex life, then my whole root chakra will get better too.
Well, money reception kind of happens there too. We talk about receiving through the heart, but when we talk about the physical world and money and power, we receive through our root chakra. So we can actually use that sexual energy to manifest money as well.
Okay, we're going to be quiet on that. My husband I don't want him to hear that.
No, you got to take charge though.
Right. Got it. Okay. Let's move on to Camille. What do you feel for her?
Well, Camille's kind of wearing her color too. So you guys are all kind of wearing your colors, which is kind of fun. Really? But Camille, rose quartz is a great way to kind of open up that thymus gland. So some people call it the upper heart chakra, but I call it the thymus gland because when you stimulate it, it has all the healing cells for the body. So even if you start feeling sick, but for you, it's we got two things going on, if you don't mind me saying, Camille. We have a couple things with the throat and with our self-care. So there is an inability that, I don't know if you've resisted it or if you're just not aware of it, to actually start affirming through the throat chakra, these beautiful self-care words. Because once, maybe you all do that one a little bit separately at another time, but we were maybe programmed through also father energy to not really affirm beautiful things about ourselves. And so there was a lack of that programming for you, that teaching for you, that role model for you it's actually okay. And because it's almost like if I were to kind of take an affirmation and put it in your throat right now, it would feel wrong for you to say it in your stomach because you've been, because of the programming. It's not real, it's an illusion, but like there's almost like this shutting down of receiving. like I can feel like there's, like if I were to pay you a really nice compliment, it would almost like turn you this way. So, start to really program yourself as saying really nice things about yourself. And then when other people say those things to you, you can say, thank you, that's so nice, as opposed to just kind of like, oh, okay, thanks. And then you have to throw it back right away because you're uncomfortable with that energy, if that makes sense. So, 100%. The stones, rose quartz and
Literally what I have in my hand.
Sodalite. Sodalite. Yeah. Perfect. I'll work with it, girl.
You're 100% on it. Like you couldn't be more right. Because
there
was even a time I couldn't figure out how to unmute my mic, and Karen was giving me all these compliments to a point where I felt like I was going to cry because it was just like too much of a good thing at one point. You remember when you did that? I don't know if you remember, but so I was like,
even today when you came on earlier and I was like, oh, you look so pretty. Oh, I love seeing your smiling face. You're like, oh.
I got to learn to take it in. So thank you.
Okay. We're moving on to Dina.
Dina. Okay. That one's Dina. Okay. So we have a few things going on kind of in the, and I feel like there's going to be an evolution for you because there's almost like I love how this is a show about grateful goddesses, but we have a lot of masculine healing to do. Okay.
Interesting.
It's almost like, there is this kind of complete shutdown of the masculine, not to go too much into detail about what had happened in your life, but I would really start also, we could kind of, I want to do for you, I would work with Amethyst because it's a great way to start to kind of activate for you, because what we want to do is kind of stabilize you first before we kind of really go into the deep healing of all those chakras on that, the energy centers on that right side, that masculine influence, because there was kind of a programming early on that actually kind of made it so there's, I wouldn't say a detest of masculine energy, but there was this kind of shutdown of masculine energy where really that's our vitality, that's our action, that's our like movement forward, where the feminine is more the inward and the nurturing and the loving and the different phases and the flow, where the masculine is the consistency every single day. While the sun rises every single day. That's the message from the sun, the masculine sun. It's do the same thing every day. And together they create this perfect balance with the sun and the moon. But I would start working with Amethyst to kind of stabilize that, because there is a lot of sadness that will start to rise once we really go into the history of that. And that's okay. That's what we want. We want that anger to rise. We want that because we want to create a clear boundary, so people can't violate that anymore for you. So Amethyst is the answer.
Do you have Amethyst, Tina?
I don't think so.
Okay, it's coming your way. And Rachel, thank you so much, by the way, Lori, for doing this. It's
oh yeah, I'm in my shop. It's really easy to read when I'm in my shop because I'm surrounded by all these beautiful, like, high frequency.
And we know a little bit about each other. You've never met us, so this is really right. She's kind of touching so far on a lot of key points. Go ahead, Rachel.
Miss Rachel, I love your energy, by the way. It's fun to read. Oh, goodness. It's funny because your masculine goes into the feminine on the solar plexus. It kind of overtakes it. And it's not a bad thing. It's just kind of fun where your confidence and then we kind of have this zigzag of energy, which is, they kind of dance together in this beautiful, like this, and it's really fun. You're a little bit more advanced with the stones that you work with. And I know that you know that. When we talk about, there's a chakra on the back of our neck called the Zeal Chakra. It's called the mouth of God. And when you're working with kind of singing bowls, I believe it's either, I want to say G sharp, but I'm not sure, but you can look up Zeal Chakra crystal bowls, but it vibrates with the color of magenta. And I'm not even getting a stone per se for you. I'm getting more of learning how to open that chakra up, because that's how we, it's even a more powerful way to channel our messages. Not even through our throat, but it just kind of comes, and it's just even more powerful channeling, if that makes sense. So I'm getting more of a sound for you as opposed to a stone. So really Googling Zeal Chakra meditations or Zeal Chakra crystal bowls, and and working with that chakra. And that's more of an advanced thing. Some highly sensitives come in with really strong, wide open Zeal Chakras that are out of balance. But you are going to start to really open that one up. And because you've done you do the work, girl. You do the work. Because you're aware. Most people aren't aware. And so, I would shift the solar plexus maybe a little bit. There's a little bit of ego in there, but that's okay. If you're in
I struggle with my ego all the time. I'm taming it.
So when you think about that, you can actually work with blue light on the left side and kind of just gently glide it back over into that healthier masculine, because and don't get me wrong, girl, I do the same thing. But yeah, I mean, just to tame it, just work with blue light to kind of ease that solar plexus to a balanced state. And I'm not giving you stones because I feel like you actually are more advanced in energy work, and you can kind of play with them a little bit differently, if that makes sense. But working with the mouth of God, the Zeal Chakra.
Does that resonate with you, Rachel?
It does, although I don't feel advanced. It's very interesting that you're saying that, because I'm learning so much from you. I don't know a lot about stones, but I have been doing, deep spiritual study in my life recently, and really trying to evaluate where I'm coming from and what's happening in my life and my relationships, and kind of moving forward. And again, so it's so interesting, everything you're saying. But and recently, it's funny, Jeff Pulver, I was talking to him, and he is so intuitive, and kept talking about my neck, and that is like an important part of me, and that I need to open that up. And the fact that you're repeating that, I have goosebumps all over.
Yeah, and you actually are more sensitive than you actually know. So you're more in tune to the subtleties of energy, if that makes sense. So as people detox, they become more and more sensitive to it, because you just exist at a higher frequency naturally, is what I'm trying to say. And so therefore I don't even know if stones would work for you, as far as I think stones are kind of the gateway into the other frequencies, but really just playing with the different sounds, because sounds are really important around you. Mm-hmm. Working with the crystal bowls, working with just there's something called solfeggio sounds. They're different frequencies of the planet. And you can just Google those. They're all over YouTube. And really keep raising that frequency up to get lighter and lighter. Now, there's one thing that you could use. Well, there is a stone that's coming up. It's called selenite. There's a little bit of mental fog kind of on that left side as far as receiving goes. But receiving is on that crown. So even working with selenite would be really good to open that up. It's just a little bit of a mental fog, and you'll start to doubt yourself less with the information that you're getting. So
this is so cool. And I have to tell you, we have all these questions laid out that we talked about. And then right before, we're just going to go with our intuition, right, guys? We're just going to go with it. And, I was a little nervous because I like to be planned. We are organized, don't get me wrong. But we usually we all pick a question, right? And this time we're like, let's just see. And this is so great. I just feel so great about this. So thank you. I want to dive into, though, now your publishing company. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I kind of have a parent company called Seven Stones Media. So my store here in Arizona is called Seven Stones. It's a brick and mortar, but I also have Seven Stones Publishing. And I started Seven Stones Publishing. I wrote a book called The Goddess of Mount Rainier, working with mountains again, of course.
And I love the title, The Goddess, right?
The Goddess of Mount Rainier. And I was at a Hay House writer's workshop in Maui. And I got to speak to the CEO in front of 500 people. And I said, hey, is it better if I submit my manuscript, my book proposal to an established publishing company, or should I just publish on my own? And he goes, great question. What's the name of your publishing company? Yada, yada, yada. And he's like, you should publish on your own, because if you want to learn how to publish on your own. So I wanted to be a little bit different. I wanted to have a niche kind of like Hay House, right? Where they definitely catered towards the metaphysical world. And, but I also wanted to be kind of in the middle. So I wanted to be a traditional publisher that still gave the artist creative freedom, which now I kind of understand why publishing companies don't do that, but that's okay, because I only attract people that that kind of understand the process. But in the beginning, it was really hard because they're like, I want it this way. And I said, that's too expensive. So now I'm very careful of who I publish. But so I wanted to be kind of this indie publisher, but that's traditional with really big dreams. I never call myself a small business ever. You will never hear those words come out of my mouth. I think that you have to be very intentional with your words. And so I published my book, and then all of a sudden somebody else wanted me to be publish them. And so I was like, we did that. That was Laura McHenry, I Am the Song. She does all these, it's How to Hear the Voice of the Universe. It's a beautiful collection of her journey. And then I got another author, and then another author, and we did a children's book, and then I did an oracle card deck, and then I got another woman who wants me to do a tarot deck, and I thought, well, we're just kind of keep going. And then of 2020 of this year, the Cardomancer magazine was for sale. And so my publishing company then bought a magazine company, and I turned that around pretty quickly. And then now we're in 20 countries. We're in 15 stores on the West Coast, and we got picked up by New Leaf Distribution. So my world is kind of the metaphysical world, and I've always looked to Louise Hay as an inspiration for me, and rest in peace. So I just love helping people find their voice. Because that's my life purpose too. Are
you getting emotional? You're getting emotional a little bit?
A little bit, because 2020 has taught me that I need to ask for help, and I need to use my voice. Mm-hmm. Because being highly sensitive and an empath, mm-hmm. I'm able to anticipate everybody's needs because I feel what they need. But not everybody's like that. And I had assumed, I don't know why, I had assumed everybody else was like that. And so I learned a really tough lesson this year that I have to ask for help, and I have to use my voice. And that's part of, or set clear boundaries, or say no, or, whatever. Especially on running my own business, I have to tell people, you're not welcome here, get out.
I don't know why, but this is coming up in me. And how can we help you? I don't know why. I just feel like I have to ask you that.
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest. I just have to ask for help. I just have to, I don't know about you guys, but I definitely was the spokesperson for Wonder Woman syndrome. So, well,
I think it's just sharing what I love about Grateful Goddesses is that we're really diving into so many different topics, and some we may not quite feel we believe in or we understand, but it's just the idea of being open. And when we talked about energy earlier, all of these women, and then there's more too, if you listen and watch the past episodes, I felt connections with. I felt like everyone was sort of brought to me in different ways. Camille, I interviewed for a show, which I also met through Jeff, but I just one day said, do you want to be a featured goddess? Like, I just felt like she would be along on this journey with us. And Rachel was brought along with a friend. Dina used to teach my son, and I kept running into her in the grocery store. And I'm like, there's a reason for this. Like, do you want to be on this journey with us? So I feel like what you're saying, we all have that energy, that ability, and it's just being open and tapping into it, right?
Not just tapping into it, but taking the reins back and actually emitting energy. You're creating your future, but most people do it by default. And you can really get ahead of the curve, or as Abraham Hicks talks about, get ahead of the vortex, right? But it takes practice, and you have to do it every single day. But man, like, you can start to manifest instantly when you get so far ahead of it. It's quite fascinating, actually, to play with energy.
There's this sense, and, you were saying, like, as you evolved and you've, like, realized kind of what your power is and how you read it, and then you've honed in and you've, created this whole life around using your intuition and your strengths and helping others. And how does one really tap into that? And I know, you hear, use your intuition, but where do you find the confidence to actually, like, believe in that and know that? And I feel like I'm an empath, but I can't even define what I'm experiencing. It's that the way you articulate it is beautiful. And I'm just curious, like, how you've come into that place in your life.
Well, there was a trial period of where I doubted it every day. And I started with affirming, because we live in a thought-based reality, right? I mean, my language with the universe would be very different than your language with the universe. So I had to be confident that the communication that was happening was real, because I doubted it for a long time. And especially in my early 20s, that's when we always doubt everything. But how do you do it? You just have to practice every single day, and trust that your experience will outweigh your belief. Once you start to believe it more and more, it'll keep getting validated. It'll keep getting validated. It'll keep getting validated, because that's your belief system. Once whatever you believe is real. I never argue with anybody's belief system because it's real to them, ever, because their thoughts are creating their reality. Now, I resonate with crystals because they have a higher frequency. I resonate with everything that has a higher frequency, but there's a lot of people that I call earth workers that really do really well in the lower frequencies. And those are the people that balance me out. But you have to practice every day. So for you, I would work with sounds every single day. And they just keep showing me automatic writing is going to be really important for you. So writing things down, and you're like, I still to this day, I'm like, I don't know what this means, right? Like, I don't know what it means when I'm reading somebody. I trust that it means something to them. I can't always translate it, but I just have to trust what I'm seeing and feeling and I know it is for that person that we're directing and focusing our energy on. Because a lot of people, when they start, they're pulling everybody's energy and they get overwhelmed and they have no idea if it's for you or you or you or this person over here. Whereas you just have to practice and you ask yourself, is this mine? No. 9 times out of 10, it's not yours. It's somebody else's that doesn't have control of their energy, which is most people. And, you're naturally attuned to be able to do that. And so you can imagine things too. There's a popular one where you could take an imaginary knob and, like, turn it way down to not feel anybody's energy, or turn it way up if you're going to be helping somebody or channeling information, or I don't know why music's coming up for you, but sound, everything's sound, singing, I don't know, whatever, like, for you, it's going to be working with them. And it might come through as a song for you. It might come through, and I don't know how you would use the messages that you'd be given. Do you write songs? Do you like?
I don't. And it's funny because Jeff said that I have music in me too, but I
dance. You like to dance to music.
I dance to music, and I played piano my whole life, but I'm very, like, I play classical music. I played in college. Like, but I really love interpreting written music that's already written, but I don't ever think that I have the capacity to write it myself.
Well, don't ever affirm that. You just affirm that.
I take it back. I take it back.
So a good affirmation for you is, I am open to inspired music coming through me. And when you use the words open and willing, I call those bridging affirmations, because an affirmation is really, it's a signal you're sending out to the universe. And guess what? When you send the signal out, it comes back to you. And when you lift that muscle, when you do those reps every single day, it gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. But I see you, once you start working with that Zeal Chakra, I can see the music coming through that into your hands. So I think that there is music inside of you that would be beautifully expressed as an art form that would create a lot of healing, not only for you, but for other people. It would be channeled from the divine is really what that is.
I feel like crying right now.
Oh,
It's so powerful. It's so powerful. Thank you.
I saw on Dina's face too. You were feeling something too by that.
I'm waiting for you to write some lyrics and music and sing to us for sure.
Yes. Camille, what was your question?
Yeah. So my question is about, you had mentioned about getting your stones ethically sourced. And I was curious if you could share more about that, how we can make sure that when we're out purchasing these stones that we are getting ethically sourced stones, so we're not getting past traumas already embedded into the stones. But although you did teach us how to clean it if we do have that problem.
So yes, and so you can also take stones home and be a hospital for them too. So that's okay.
So sorry for interrupting, but so for example, my husband gave me beautiful diamond earrings for my birthday, anniversary, everything above, everything. And now I'm nervous. I want to take them out but I can clean them. What can you do? How do you know?
Have you ever seen the movie Blood Diamonds?
So the first thing that's coming up for me to say would to be absolutely detox yourself, so you can use your intuition to know what you're good and what you're bad, or not bad. I don't like to use good and bad. That are the best ones for you. So diamonds aren't bad. I don't want to throw that out there. Diamonds come from the earth. They are beautiful. The second thing was to actually ask the people that buy them. They might not even know. You're going to, a lot of times when they're in the crystal shop, they come to the crystal shops to heal it's that kind of transition period before they move on to the buyer. But ask them, when you're and I work with certain, wholesalers where I only trust certain ones. So mine's all intuitive based because I don't know if they're telling me where it's coming from or not, but I can tell if they're lying to me. I can tell if it's untruthful. The question is just ask, but the best thing is to really detox yourself. So you really know yourself, like what's a good one and what's not. And I'm telling you this like everybody's as highly sensitive as me, but but it takes time, and you can just change your diet and change your self-care, and you really will start to feel lighter and more in tune, and things are communicating with you, and you'll just know. Mm-hmm. It's really ineffable. Like I really struggle to put it in words sometimes, what I feel and what I sense, because it's kind of, it transcends language really. So I try to do my best to explain it.
Thank you again.
If for me, for example, I'm very attracted to Moonstone. And people know this and they give me gifts of Moonstone, and I don't know why.
It's a really good hormone balancer for one. Okay. Moonstone has a really interesting history. It was believed that the moonbeam solidified in the stone, and but really it had another name. I think it was Androlite or something. It came out of Switzerland. A really high quality moonstone came out of Switzerland. So Moonstone, it has a lot of the rainbow colors in it, and for you, I feel like it really does kind of balance the hormones for you. It's really good to wear during a full moon. I'm highly sensitive to full moon. I don't know if you guys are too. But it helps to kind of balance the energies, they keep saying balance I keep hearing balance the hormones. So
yeah, I'm attracted to it. I like the color. I happen to be wearing all my Moonstone rings at one time. I don't normally do this, but it's just a stone that I like anyway.
And I should say, I hate it when people stereotype stones. And put them in a category.
Okay.
Because not all rose quartz, not all moonstones, not all amethysts are going to do the same thing for one person as they are for another, because depending on what neighborhood they grew up in, they could be a little tough. They could be, wherever they came from in the world, they imprint that energy with it. And then also with your frequency, it's going to be different. So for you, a moonstone might balance your hormones, but for me, it might just make me feel calm in my heart during a full moon. I don't wear it. I only usually wear it during a full moon.
Right. Well, this has been fascinating. And I just wanted to ask you now, finally, if our guests, if our viewers and listeners want to contact you, I know you have your stores, or how can they reach out to you, perhaps for readings or other types of sessions?
Yeah, they can look us up. So I'm on Seven Stones Gold Canyon, or they can reach out sevenstonespublishing.com. Both of those websites have a contact page, and Seven Stones Publishing is probably the best, where it comes directly to me. Oh, go ahead. Look like you were going to say something.
No, I have my 7 stone sticker. I wanted to write over my heart, and that you sent to me as well. So thank you so much, Lori, for joining us on Grateful Goddesses today.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Up next, favorite things. Opening up to happiness and joy.
Okay. Welcome, everyone, to Favorite Things with Lori Ross on Grateful Goddesses. One of my favorite things is my Himalayan salt lamp that I actually have by my bed. My husband hates it, and he's always wanting me to shut it off because he likes the room completely dark. So I often will meditate with this. Now I've moved it up to the office, and I put it on during podcasts because it just has a beautiful glow. I'm not even sure what it means or what it does for me, but I feel good when I turn it on. Maybe, Laura, you can help to shed some light on that. What are your thoughts?
So Himalayan salt is it's great at neutralizing the energy of a space. And it's really good for meditation rooms. It's a detoxifier. The color of, it's almost like the color of sunrise and sunset, where that you get that first peak of joy. It just resonates with the energy of joy and calm and peace. And, it actually, like I said, it neutralizes the space. Your husband probably does need dark, though, to actually decompress from his day as well. So I don't know if there's a meditation room it wants to slide into, or if you're going to keep it in your room. But
no, I moved it out. It's fine. I'll do my meditation on my own or in the office, and then I'll go to sleep. It's fine. It's when you're living with someone and you have to, like, both energies, you have to try and combine and work with, right? It's tricky.
Yeah, there's a really cool thing. I know we're going on a tangent here, but there's something called sleeping in sovereignty, where couples should not sleep together every night.
Did you hear that?
Because you don't get a chance to fully repair yourself, because you're always trying to balance the other person.
Well, can you put a certain stone under your pillow or something like that?
Well, sure, you can. Or you can even put my husband and I, sometimes I'll go out on the couch, and my son thought, he's like, "Are you guys okay?" I was like, "Yeah, we're just sleeping in sovereignty." And we tried it, and it actually worked really well. But sometimes we'll put a pillow in between us or something to block the energy, to kind of just cut it. That's very helpful. Yeah. But I highly recommend it. That's what I'm trying to do. I've been with my husband for 20 years, so we've been together a long time.
It's so funny because my parents sleep in separate rooms for the longest time, and they're like, we have the best marriage, but it's just, probably the energies. Okay, Camille, what did you bring for favorite things today?
Well, of course, I brought my rose quartz. My daughter got this at school. They had a mining field trip that was an in-school field trip, and they had to mine for their own stones, and she came home with a Ziploc bag of stones. And since she could speak, she has been obsessed with rocks and stones, and would always just pick up random stones or gravel. Even at my mom's driveway is all gravel. And like the first time she could see over the car seat, she was like all excited. And for the record, when she said rock, it sounded a lot like an F word. So she was like, and just kept saying it over and over again. And I pulled out my video camera and started recording her, because it was, that's what us millennials do. And so, well, I'm not even a millennial, but anyway, so this reminds me of that moment, because my mom was in the car with me and was like, "That's child abuse. That's not funny." And it was just a very funny moment, because she was excited about the rocks, and my mom was like giving me crap. And it was totally my type of mothering, where I'm just like, let her have fun. And this is funny. And I have it on video. Hopefully my flip camera will still work when she's old enough to use it against her when she's a teenager or weddings or whatever. But I love this little rock because of her.
It's beautiful.
Thanks.
How about you, Rachel? What did you bring?
So these bracelets I can't stop wearing. And this one is from my grandmother. And I just think she got it when she was traveling. And I think it might be from Mexico. I'm not sure. And the other one that I did want to ask you about, Lori, like I cannot wear enough turquoise. I love turquoise. It brings me so much joy. And I'm just wondering, what is it about turquoise that it does for you as a stone?
So turquoise is very protective, especially in the Native American cultures. But if you got to think about kind of what we talked about earlier, because it resonates with that throat chakra. It's blue, and again, we're talking about opening things up, but it's also very protective of your energy. And when you wear it, it actually creates kind of this, I'm going to say force field around you when you're working in the city or you're working around other people. It's very protective of you. I feel like, I don't know, in your business you talk a lot too, so you have to use your voice a lot or something like, yeah. So there's a lot of, I don't know if this is your business. I don't know what your business is, but it actually, so some stones are here to heal, but some are just like, if you're in the communication field, you're probably going to wear a lot of blue and green, right? Or blue and indigo, because you're using your voice a lot. So, and you're channeling the information. So it's more of a support as well. So, just to kind of give that extra boost.
I try to do a lot of community building. That's kind of been my natural course. But I do feel like it protects me. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And Dina, what did you bring along?
So like 8 years ago, my nephew, who was probably 5 or 6 at the time, just brought me a bag full of rocks, all different kinds. And I, as I said earlier, I know nothing about them. I look at them, feel them sometimes. But today I dug out the rocks that sit in like a little dish in my bathroom and pulled out a few that just sort of spoke to me. And I'm not sure why. I mean, this one, I think because it's super soft and shiny. I don't know what it is or if it's anything. And then this one, just because it was intentional to me. It looks very intentional. I don't know what they are or aren't or what, but.
So I can't tell what the green one kind of looks like a bloodstone, but that one is definitely a fluorite. So I actually have a big fluorite here. You guys can see it here, giant one. So fluorite is kind of known as a traveler's stone, but it definitely, similar to the amethyst, it does that kind of chakra reset. But for you, when you're holding it, it definitely goes into that masculine side of that heart and kind of activates it. I would work with that a little bit at a time until we can stabilize the other energies, just because we might bring up heart stuff in inopportune times that might come out and you're not. The reason I say that is I did a heart, so you can do grids. We didn't even get into this, but you can do grids with crystals, and you can, there's phallic, like this is a very phallic one, obviously. The energy, you can point it, it channels, but then we have, softer ones that the energy orbs out. I did a crystal grid on somebody and we kind of opened up the heart space, and she ended up crying for like 3 months straight. And I was like, she needed it, but like, man, it was intense. And it was a long story, but it was too much, too fast, and she wanted it, but so I learned not to kind of slowly go in there until we can stabilize. But that floor.
I shouldn't put this under my pillow. I shouldn't.
Don't sleep with that under your pillow. No.
Touch it every week or so.
You need the amethyst first, is what she said before.
Lori said this was similar.
It's similar. It is similar. It'll start to balance you out, but almost at a rate that you might not be ready for. So I'm just giving you a warning. You can do what you please with them. Things might rise to the surface. And
what about this one? The other one that you couldn't really see? It looks like a dark green to me.
Is there any red kind of swirls in it at all? Like any type?
Hold it really close to the camera, Dina.
I don't think so.
No.
So
it looks smooth. It's very smooth to the touch. Feels nice.
So it's either a bloodstone or a green aventurine is what I'm feeling, but I'm feeling more bloodstone. That one's going, so traditionally bloodstone, they talk about a blood purifier, all this stuff. That one's actually going to your head. And I don't know if you're around smoke or something, or there's, it's kind of cleaning out all of these, the sinuses. It's like, it's starting to clear that out. But I feel smoke around, so I don't know what that means. But
maybe it might come to you later. You might.
I don't know if you were a former smoker and it's kind of cleaning out that old energy or what, but that's kind of what I don't know. It's kind of going up there.
And Lori, what did you bring?
Oh, well, let me see. So I remember one time you asked us to bring mugs on one of the shows.
Yeah.
And this one specifically, like I said, everything talks when you listen. So it's probably going to be backwards on here, but it says, she believed she could, so she did. And it's like this empowerment statement. I am a word porn freak. Like, I love words. I just love, like, if I just had art all over the shop, it would just be like beautiful affirmations of love and like really kind of gets to the heart. But maybe it's because I work in the book industry, but I love beautiful statements, beautiful quotes, beautiful words, beautiful songs. But yeah, I wanted to show that. I don't think I got to show this last time. So
yeah. So on the Grateful Goddess TV, we ask everyone to bring a mug just because we want everyone to feel comfortable and kind of like we're all having our hot cocoa or whatever is in your mug. And a lot of times people raise them with interest. It says so much about who they are. Ironically, whatever kind of mug they have. And that definitely says a lot about you, because we talked to you today about words and affirmations and how that can change into thoughts and then actions and your energy and what you put out, what you take in. And it's just beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing all of your amazing goddess energy with us today. We so appreciate you joining us today for Grateful Goddess.
Oh, it was my pleasure. So much fun.
Unleashed your inner goddess yet? Thanks for joining us today on Grateful Goddesses. We invite you to visit our website, www.gratefulgoddesses.com, to access today's show notes as well as other helpful resources. Don't forget to leave a review. Until next time, stay strong and empowered to be a grateful goddess.